Good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly weather briefing from Spokane National Weather Service. It's Monday, July 10th, and we'll give an overview of the weather for the week. Basically, we're going to be seeing a bit of a repeat of last week with temperatures starting off today seasonal, mainly dry. We have some breezy winds going on, and the possibility of isolated thunderstorms up in northeast Washington and the northern Panhandle. As we get into Tuesday, it'll still be dry and seasonal, but a lot less wind. Then when we get to Wednesday, through the rest of the week and into the weekend, the heat will return and it will become warmer and drier. Here's the big picture showing the satellite view across the Pacific and the western U.S. Last week we had a big area of high pressure that was centered over the Four Corners area of the west, and that has been shunted to the east and allowed a trough of low pressure from the Pacific to move in, and this has brought the more refreshing change in temperatures today. Primarily in the 80s for today with some breezy winds. That came with a cold front that came through overnight and now is marching across Montana. This trough will stay over the region tonight and then weaken into tomorrow, giving us more of a westerly flow. It looks like that ridge of high pressure will be building northward again as we get toward the end of the week. Currently, we have some highlights more geared towards our fire weather users. There is a red flag warning out in effect for the Cascade Valleys and the western Columbia Basin. That includes areas as in Chelan, Wenatchee, down to Yakima, and into the Moses Lake area. What we're seeing are the breezy winds along with relative humidities dipping down to critical levels. These conditions will continue through the afternoon into the early evening hours. Here is a forecast that shows what our max wind gusts will be later today into this evening. And you can see the peak wind gusts primarily in the Cascade Valleys from Wenatchee to Ellensburg and then over to the Moses Lake and Ritzville area, with speeds of 20 to 30 miles an hour, and some areas around in the Kittitas Valley up to 40 miles an hour. As we go into Tuesday and the rest of the week, we can expect generally light winds for the rest of the period. The risk of isolated thunderstorms is here for today, primarily near the Canadian border. I would say around the Republic area to Colville, to Sandpoint, and Bonners Ferry, and mainly in the mountain areas. It looks like the conditions are looking right for now into the early evening hours. With that, the impacts would be occasional lightning and possibly some small hail. As I said, as we get into Tuesday, drier and less wind is expected, but our temperatures will be on the rise. And I wanted to show kind of an upper level pattern that shows how this ridge that we see in the Four Corners area, by Wednesday it's starting to build, and then as we get into Friday it's building along the northern Rockies. Looks like the more warmest temperatures will be across Montana and southern Idaho into Utah, and eastern Washington and north Idaho is going to be on that cusp of warming temperatures. But through the week, we're going to see them gradually warm up for the seasonal temperatures in the 80s for today into tomorrow, and then building into the 90s for the rest of the work week. Here's some maximum temperatures that are forecast for Friday afternoon. Looks like widespread 90s, getting close to the triple digits. And then for Saturday, it looks like that could be the warmest day, possibly, in some areas with more 90s and triple digits expected again. I wanted to remind everybody it's still dry out there. We haven't seen rain in Spokane in about 11 days right now, and with the abundance of grasses and shrubs, and even in the timber, things are drying quickly. So want to keep an eye on that as we go through this week. And then the outlook for this weekend, very warm. You can expect some locally breezy conditions near the Cascades. It'll be mostly dry, and there is a slight chance of maybe some thunderstorms in North Idaho late Friday into Saturday, depending on where that ridge builds up and any moisture that wraps around it. But for the most part, it looks mostly dry. The outlook for the 8 to 14 days looks like the warmer weather will continue across the region and the west. And then the chances of precipitation show us we're going to remain dry pretty much through middle of July and maybe even to the end of the month. So that's what I have for you today. Remember, stay informed. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And this recording is going to be posted on YouTube later today. Thanks for joining.